This special presentation on WBBZ-TV, MusicalFare Theater presents A Gentleman's Guide to Love and Murder was made possible with support from MusicalFare Theater and their sponsors.
I'm Kim Piazza. Welcome to MusicalFare Theater presents A Gentleman's Guide to Love and Murder. This Knock 'em Dead uproarious comedy was the most nominated show of the 2014 Broadway season, with 10 Tony nominations and 4 wins, including Best Musical. When the low-born Monty Navarro finds out that he is 8th in line for earldom in the lofty Dysquith family, he figures his chances of outliving his predecessors are slight and sets off down a far more ghoulish path. Can he knock off his unsuspecting relatives without being caught? A Gentleman's Guide to Love and Murder is a fresh new musical comedy filled with non-stop laughs and unforgettable music. Get ready for a special half hour taking you behind the scenes of this amazing show at MusicalFare Theater. Musical comedy is the name of the game in A Gentleman's Guide to Love and Murder, and we're having a sit-down with Western New York's favorite actor, Marc Sacco. Hello.
Hello, how are you?
Wonderful. Thank you for joining us. And we have to mention, Marc has been performing on stage here at MusicalFare Theater for 21 years.
Yep, that's right. 21.
That's fantastic.
It's quite a career, yeah. I've been very lucky.
Well, and I think Western New York is very lucky that we have talent like yours, that we can come and sit and enjoy every single moment that you're on the stage.
Thank you.
And this musical will be the same. You have a really interesting part to play in A Gentleman's Guide to Love and Murder. So fill us in a little bit on what's so fun about what you're going to do.
Well, I played the Dysquith family, so I play an aristocratic family. I play all 9 of them throughout the show, and so...
So you're one man playing 9 characters.
That's correct. Yeah, so some of them are men, some of them are women. They're various ages, so it's a lot of looks, it's a lot of costumes, and it's a lot of mayhem.
And you know, that's a lot of fun for the audience, because the audience gets to sit back and see what Marc's going to bring to the stage next. And, I mean, the costumes, the changes, the energy. How many costume changes are we seeing you in?
I'm in 9 characters. There's probably 15 changes total. I appear as some of the characters multiple times, so I would say around 15.
So a touch of chaos.
It's a touch of chaos.
That's fantastic. But this isn't your first time tackling a role with kind of all of these interesting facets.
No, I've done quite a few shows where I play multiple characters. The most recent one, I believe, was Baskerville, which was a comedic send-up of Sherlock Holmes and the Baskerville Hound story, and I played 14 characters in that show. And that was a few years ago, and that was equally crazed.
And this particular show, like so many in our theater community, for a few years kind of had to go by the wayside because of COVID.
Right.
And so, you know, now it's here and it's on its feet. And of course, you are part of the original cast.
Correct. I think initially I got the offer for this show about 3 years ago. And we were just a few weeks out from starting rehearsal when the shutdown happened. And so I put my script away for 2 years, and it was, easily accessible for when we were ready, and we're finally back and able to be doing all of these things, which is amazing. Yeah.
Which is kind of, that's a victory.
For sure, absolutely.
In these crazy times, that's a victory.
Absolutely.
And then as an actor, when you're doing 9 different roles, and is the approximate 2 hours that you're on stage. There's a lot of back and forth. That's a lot of character changes and gender bending. And how do you prepare for that?
A lot of it is organization. Before we started rehearsal, really made sure that I started to get a good idea of who I thought these people were, so that we got into rehearsals, I was able to sort of focus in each scene on each of those characters. Now that we're getting into runs of performances, again, it's organization, but I have the beautiful help of a wardrobe assistant backstage, which is not something we always have the luxury of. I could not be doing any of this without her help.
Sure, because you might come out as character number 6 when you're supposed to be coming out as character number 2, right?
Right. I've had nightmares about that.
Yeah.
So far so good. But
Yeah. And so then, are you also digging into the physicality of these characters? Are you walking different? Are you talking different?
Yeah, so each of them, they're various ages and genders, as I mentioned, and so with that, we all, as people, have different sort of mannerisms or different way that we carry our bodies, and so I really have tried to make sure that each of the characters has their own sort of sense of being, and some of that is with physicality.
Too fun. Too much fun. Okay, well, we can't wait to see. We can't wait to see what you're going to bring. We can't wait to see the variety of Marc Sacco on stage. It's going to be a good time. So thank you so much for coming and sitting with us and talking to us about your 9 roles. That's right, 9 roles. And we're going to take a few moments and we're going to speak to the director choreographer of the show. And I know we're going to have the pleasure of hearing and seeing some musical numbers. So thank you so much, Marc.
Great, thank you.
Can't wait to see you on stage. And what is a show without a director? What is a musical without a choreographer? Well, we are lucky enough to sit down with Doug Weyand, who is both the director and the choreographer of A Gentleman's Guide to Love and Murder. Thank you for sharing this time with us.
Sure, no problem.
So it's unusual, isn't it, for the director to also be the choreographer?
In a lot of shows, yeah. I think there's a definite difference between like when you're doing a book show, like maybe Guys and Dolls, when you think of like that. Usually there's a director who handles the scene work and then the choreographer comes in and does the big splashy numbers and that's it. But when there's shows that the staging has to be seamlessly intertwined, especially in a period piece like this, you kind of need someone to just make it all work as one track so it looks like it's all coming from one mind at the same time.
So let's talk a little bit about what makes this a period piece. You said a period piece like this. So this is based on a film. Tell us about the film.
The film was called Kind Hearts and Coronets. It was probably from the 1940s sometime and starred Alec Guinness. And it's about, the musical and the movie are both about a wealthy family called the Dysquith family who are being bumped off, comedically in both versions, by someone who is trying to attain the earldom that this family has an entitlement to. So ultimately it's based on that, but of course the original wasn't a musical at all. That was later added.
Sure, inspired by.
Inspired by.
And this particular show for MusicalFare, 3 times this show's been on the docket, and darn COVID strikes again.
Exactly.
But finally it's here.
Exactly. It was originally scheduled in our 1920 season, and it was the show we were starting to rehearse right before the big shutdown happened. Then it was rescheduled later when we thought we could do it again. Nope, then it was scheduled again. So finally we're able to do it at this point after several years and a couple of cast changes. And actually I wasn't the original director. Randy Kramer was supposed to direct it and I was supposed to choreograph, but then we decided it would be better to work it this way.
Mm-hmm. And it's got to be satisfying for the company to finally have this on its feet in front of an audience. Goodbye, COVID. And COVID regulations have changed?
COVID regulations have changed with this show. We have finally lifted our vaccination requirement, so anybody can come. It's not any problem. And we used to have a mask requirement as well, but that has been optional for a while. So now there's absolutely no restrictions whatsoever.
And this is an 8-person cast?
It is an 8-person cast. There's one gentleman who plays the murderer, Monty Navarro. His name is Ricky Needham. I'll run through some of them. Another is Marc Sacco, who you've already spoken to. And then there are 2 females who play the 2 love interests of our lead. And then there's 4 ensemble members who play about 10 to 15 characters each.
And we have a few faces that I think we're very familiar with locally.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Ricky Needham and Marc Sacco, who we already discussed, have been in numerous shows in the area. Jen Stafford, John May, John Panapinto, who's a newcomer to the area. So is Solange Gosselin, who just moved back to Buffalo after being away. And Emily Yancey, who's done a lot of work in town, and she's a fantastic talent.
Yeah, so it's always a pleasure to see local talent on stage, particularly here at Musical Theater, because you guys always do such quality work.
Well, thank you.
Oh, well, you're welcome. So let's see, our COVID restrictions are up. We've got local musicians, actors here on stage, local director and choreographer, and kind of a victorious, we're finally doing it. We're finally
opening the show, yes.
And murder and comedy kind-hearted murder and comedy?
It's very kind-hearted. The show's set in the early 1900s in sort of Victorian England, and it's every one of the murders. Some of them you don't even see. Some of them they're inferred or you hear. But the ones you do see aren't violent. They're funny. They're all staged very comedically, like a drunk priest might take a trip. We won't tell exactly how. Things like that.
Oops.
So it's all in jest as far as murder can go, along the lines of things like, arsenic and old lace, things like that.
Sure. And then this show in particular had quite a run on Broadway. 10 nominations?
Yeah, it had 10 Tony nominations, and it won 4, including Best Musical and Best Score. And it was on Broadway from 2014 to 16, about a 2-year run, which is pretty good. And yeah, it's just one of the most successful shows and original shows within the last 10 years or so.
Sure.
Yeah.
So this is a show that comes with a great history. I mean, this is a show to see. It's family friendly. It's a hoot. It is just hilarious. The talent is top notch. The direction and choreography, it's all there. And with 10 nominations and 4 wins in the Tony Awards, this show's good.
Right. The material's there and the talent's there, so that's all you can ask for.
Well, thank you for sitting down with us.
Thanks for having me.
Why are all the dice squiths dying? What grisly sort of plague is going round? It seems that every day a dice squith slips away, and here we are assembled, putting another one in the ground. It's frankly all been rather mystifying.
Do forgive me if I scoff, but is it not a trifle odd how they've all gone off to God?
Suddenly they're congregating underneath the sod. Oh, why are all the dice squiths dying?
What a tasteless way of showing off!
Why are all the dice squiths dying? It seems that all of London's shaken to the core.
To lose one relative, one can certainly forgive.
But how can you excuse losing 2
Or 3
or 4
or 7? Why are all the dice squiths dying?
I've never seen such recklessness before.
It's unnerving.
It's not that they're not deserving.
Deserving. I never liked them much, I must confess.
In fairness, you must admit at least it's a shame about the priest.
I can't imagine missing someone less, but really,
Why are all the dice squiths
why are the dice dying?
when truth to tell so many others should?
Though privately it was said they should all drop dead, no one thought they ever really would.
I happened to notice there wasn't a lot of crying.
I even heard a snigger from the back.
Oh, it really is a shame how they start to feel the same.
How many are there left to bury after what's his name?
I ask you, why are all the dice
dying? Whoever's left, I swear I won't come back. I'm utterly exhausted keeping track. And most of all, I'm sick of wearing black.
Why are all the dice squiths dying? What could explain this tragic family curse? A night or 2 ago, we were at Fidelio. He stood and booed the mezzo, and today he's in a hearse. If I should say that I wasn't concerned, I would be lying. One doesn't like to think of one's demise. With such events you see how fragile life can be. It rather makes me wonder if the next one will be me.
So tell me, why are all the dice squiths dying?
The family tree's been whittled down to size.
It's just a twig now,
There's almost no one left to eulogize.
except for you, dear.
Let us pray no other dice with dice.
Our special Musical Fair Theater presents A Gentleman's Guide to Love and Murder continues after this break.
Musical Fair Theater presents A Gentleman's Guide to Love and Murder, a musical comedy filled with nonstop laughs and unforgettable music.
Why are all the dice with dying? What grisly sort of plague is going wrong?
A Gentleman's Guide to Love and Murder on stage now through August 7th at Musical Fair Theater, 4380 Main Street on the campus of Damon College. Call for tickets 716-839-8540 or go online at musicalfair.com.
Welcome back to Musical Fair Theater presents A Gentleman's Guide to Love and Murder. And what would Musical Fair Theater be without Randy Kramer? Hi, Randy.
Hi, Kim. How are you?
I'm good. Thank
Good.
you so much for sitting down with us, and we're excited to hear about next year.
It's amazing that we can even talk about next year, right? I mean, we haven't had a full season since 2019, 2020. And the first show in our season, we've actually announced, this will be the third time that we've announced it. It was supposed to be done in 2020, then 2021, and now in 2022, we're going to open with Nice Work If You Can Get It in September and October at our main stage at Musical Fair.
And have you been able to retain any of your original cast?
Quite a bit, quite a lot, yeah. I mean, there's a couple people, a couple things,
Life
came up.
happens.
Yeah. But overall, we're very, very pleased about it. And it's a very funny comedy with great Gershwin music. We think it's a great way to come back to the theater.
You can't beat Gershwin.
Yeah.
And the next show on the docket?
After that is Beehive, which is the music of the 60s. But it is told by two female groups who are culturally very different. There's 3 and 3, and they sing all of the great songs of the 60s, again, across cultural lines, and really sort of take the audience back to that time, but also really enjoy this music that you can't help yourself, but start to move your feet and snap your fingers.
And what a great approach that you are across cultural lines.
Yes. Well, it's certainly time, isn't it? I mean, we've been working on this for a long time, but it's just something that we need to be even much more apparent about and present about.
Yeah.
So.
Well, good for you.
Thank you.
And next?
In February, March, we're doing Andrew Lloyd Webber's Tell Me on a Sunday. So it's a wonderful story about a young girl who comes to New York City and the challenges that she runs into. And again, Andrew Lloyd Webber, Cats, Phantom of the Opera, Evita.
But it's very different than I think what people might have in mind when they think of Cats or when they think of Phantom of the Opera.
Very much so. Very much so. It's a very intimate story. It's told by one woman on stage with a nice big band that is backing her up.
And beautiful music.
And gorgeous music. So I think it's something that people will really enjoy. Something very different from the previous 2 shows.
Yes. Yes.
And then after that, in April and May, is a musical that I'm thrilled we're doing. I sort of can't believe we're doing it. It's called Disaster. We're set up for critics to like, oh boy, here we go. But it's very, very funny. It is a takeoff on 70s and 80s disaster films. So think Poseidon Adventure, think The Towering Inferno.
Okay.
And it's written by Seth Rudetsky. If you know musical theater, if you know Sirius Radio, Seth Rudetsky is like the musical guy.
Yep.
And he wrote this, and they first did it in a little cabaret, a little theater off Broadway, and they eventually moved it to Broadway. And it's really not a Broadway show, but it's a great show for our theater. And it's funny, we have this thing. We have a season selection meeting every year, and we invite our board, we invite our staff, we invite our artistic staff, we invite some of our donors. I said that show, and the whole room just cracked up. And they were like, you have to do this show.
Yeah.
So that's Disasters, April, May. And then finally, in July and August is Twelfth Night, the Shakespeare play, but as a musical with a rhythm and blues and funk score.
Wow.
First done in New York City at Central Park. The Public Theater did it. And it's really a celebration of community. And again, it is a wide community that is represented on that stage.
That's so cool, Randy.
Yeah, so it's an exciting year for us.
And so these 5 shows are, you can choose to purchase the season.
Correct.
And when you purchase the season, there are 2 bonus shows in the cabaret?
There are. Number one, you can purchase a 4-show season subscription or a 5-show season subscription, and all you have to do is you have to use 2 tickets. You can see up to 2. You can see only 2 shows if you want to pick 2 shows out of the season and get a great deal on the ticket price. But yes, then in the cabaret, we're doing something unusual this year. We've never done it before. We're actually scheduling musicals in the cabaret, like full-length musicals that we're telling people about a year ahead of time. And the first one in January is Lady Day at Emerson's Bar and Grill. It is a musical about one of the final performances of Billie Holiday. And George Caldwell, who has won a Grammy with the Count Basie Orchestra,
Yes.
he is at the piano. Alex MacArthur, who is a widely awarded vocalist, is playing Billie Holiday.
It's going to be epic.
Yeah, it's being directed by Thembi Duncan, who is the director of outreach for Shays Performing Arts Center. So very, very excited about that. And then in June, we're doing Sondheim on Sondheim. It is a show featuring all these great Sondheim songs. But the cool thing about it is, Stephen Sondheim, they recorded him talking about the songs, giving history, why I wrote this, what happened, why I didn't like my mother, all these things, right? And so he's on video screens in between the songs, setting the audience up for what they're going to see next.
How unique.
So,
How
yeah,
wonderful.
it's all in the cabaret.
And so if you purchase the season, there's a savings there.
Savings on the season, and then there's even a greater savings, another savings on the cabaret shows. So,
But you can purchase the cabaret show if you don't purchase the season?
correct.
So
Correct.
no matter what you're interested in,
We'd love to see you
if
here.
you want 1 show, if you want 5 shows, if you want
Yeah.
all 7.
Yeah.
And the Disaster musical, oh my gosh.
I don't really get it. I mean, I'm directing it, so I get it.
I
but-
think it's fantastic.
Yeah, so-
That's totally my jam.
Oh, by
Love
the way,
it.
it's all 70s and 80s music.
Even better.
It's all music from the era. So there's,
So actual radio hits from the,
yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you. Oh, I can't wait for next year. Thanks, Randy.
Great to be here.
Come check out MusicalFare Theater, and you might want to seriously consider buying the 5-show season.
Who could that be?
I haven't the foggiest. Quick, go into the bedroom, shut the door, be very still. Miss Dicewith!
Mr. Navarro, forgive my intrusion.
This is so unexpected.
I needed to see you, and see you today.
Yes, of course.
Mr. Navarro, I have arrived at a stunning conclusion, and I think I would lose my resolve if I didn't come here directly to say I've decided to marry you. I've decided to marry you. I've decided, though Henry's gone, that life goes on for me. I have thoroughly thought it through, and the man that I want is you. Though it's true there are quite a few who strongly disagree. Nonetheless, I will marry you. I confess that I'm frightened too, but unless I am wrong, you long for love as much as I. This is quite unconventional, I admit, but why should that matter a whit? And if you do not say yes at once, I think I'll die.
Miss Dicewith, you've rendered me speechless. May I call you Phoebe?
What am I doing here? This could be dangerous if I'm discovered. Imagine a scandal, and I couldn't handle a scandal so risible. I'll stay invisible, still as can be. But what's going on in there? I can hear voices. I recognize Monty, but is that a woman? And if that's a woman, then what is she doing here? Is it the cousin? I wish I could see. If it's that cousin, it might just be business. It's family business, and none of my business. But why is she here in the home of a bachelor? Of course, one could point out that I'm here as well. But does she not realize that this situation puts her reputation severely in question? The merest suggestion could cause a sensation, and I cannot hear, which is hell.
I want not to marry you.
I could go home.
I'll be scorned if I marry you.
I should go
Still, I've decided to live my life again. Would believe how my life has turned.
I should be off.
After grieving, I've quickly
But he makes me laugh.
There is none that can bend the will like half Castilian men. And there's goodness to spare in you.
Isn't this fun?
And a gentleness there in you.
Isn't she done?
I've taken a wounded bird and taught her how to fly. This is quite unconventional.
plot.
And so will I be your fiancé.
Why don't you send the cow away?
Darling.
When I recall this day, I think I'll cry.
Oh, what was that?
What was what?
That sound. Is there someone here?
Oh, pay no attention. That's my new manservant. He's just finding his way around. I'll be with you in a moment. Wadsworth! Isn't this madness? Who could foresee how one trick of timing could ruin it all? One in the parlor, one in the bedroom, nothing between them but me and a wall. Look at Phoebe, noble and pious, my esteem for her only grows. But when I am with Phoebe, I am on fire, thinking of Sibella, full of desire, passion and terror, I say it, love. But when I'm with Sibella, whom do I admire? None but Phoebe, perfect and lovely, who couldn't love her, heaven knows. Round and round and round it goes. How happy I'd be to be at your disposal, my darling. Of course I accept your proposal.
Now we should kiss.
That would be bliss.
Darling, but first I'll say this. I've decided to marry you.
Phoebe.
I've decided to marry you.
Fall would fall and set me free.
Then again, there's Sibella. I'd be honored to marry you. I'll marry you.
Look what you've done to me.
Phoebe. Wadsworth.
Monty.
Grateful indeed for your gracious bestowment. Yes, Wadsworth, I told you I'll be just a moment.
Now, Monty, dear, I think I now should go. But I still want to marry you.
Even so.
I've decided to marry you.
Just go.
To marry you.
I'm decided to marry you.
Shame I must go.
A Gentleman's Guide to Love and Murder, on stage now at MusicalFare Theater through August 7th. MusicalFare Theater is located on the campus of Damon College, 4380 Main Street. Call for tickets 716-839-8540 and online at musicalfare.com.
Am I foolish to dream I'll be Earl one day, a towering man among men? Then who could deny? Now and then pigs can fly. Who will look foolish then? Who will look foolish then?
This special presentation on WBBZ-TV, MusicalFare Theater presents A Gentleman's Guide to Love and Murder was made possible with support from MusicalFare Theater and their sponsors.